Alright, quick one, then I gotta go teach math. So, what am I talking about today? I've already forgotten. We're off to a roaring great start. Lies beat truths. So, we have this sort of pious fiction in our society that the truth is somehow stronger than a lie, right? That the truth will win out in the end. It's sort of a derivative of that sort of the cream always rises idea. Hello, dog. And it's just not so. Now, it's a foundation of sort of our legal system, right? We have this whole adversarial process where there are advocates on both sides of the issue, and whichever one has the truth on their side should win out, we hope. And you can get an approximation of that if you're in a context where you have incredibly strict evidentiary standards, right? So as long as everybody is very clear that we are going to be careful about what evidence we allow to support a given proposition, and we're very consistent in applying that, then yeah, maybe we can get some approximation of that, because of sort of the preponderance of evidence will tend to be with that which accurately reflects the world as it is. But if you don't have that support, if you don't have that obsessive scrutiny of evidence that you see when you have sort of the cross-examination of evidence introduced by one side or the other, then you're not going to get that effect, right? And that sort of bleeds out, that assumption that the truth is somehow stronger than a lie sort of bleeds out into our understanding of the world in places where we're not bringing that sort of scrutiny to the evidence, and you know, that's an unfortunate situation, because believing things that aren't true leads to unfortunate side effects. So some things to really think about with lies, right? A lie always has a built-in audience. You don't tell a lie unless you have somebody who you believe will believe you. Whereas the truth doesn't have an audience built in, right? We have to advocate for the truth. And a lot of people aren't going to want to believe whatever the truth is, because it might not be the sort of thing that they want to be true of the world. And a lie is shaped by somebody's desire to be believed, ultimately. Artifice has gone into crafting something which is appealing. And the truth is just shaped by sort of what is so in the world, and that's very often unappealing. And so if you have this appealing thing that has a baked-in audience versus the ugly truth, that lie is going to get believed a lot more readily than the truth. It's going to take a tremendous amount of work to get people on board with the ugly truth over the seductive lie. Especially if your culture doesn't have that sort of, that courtroom standard of evidence, which our culture is going through a really tough time right now because we have no standard of evidence, right? We have a significant part of our population has been trained that it's a virtuous thing to believe whatever makes you feel best, which is about the worst evidentiary standard that you could ever have. So, yeah, it's a really unfortunate thing about the universe that it doesn't care about my feelings, it doesn't care about your feelings, and so the truths that reflect it very often are unpleasant. But, you know, if we're going to move in a constructive direction, if we're going to engage with the universe in a way that supports our well-being, we got to square up to those sorts of things. And so that's why careful standards of evidence are incredibly important. And this has been an issue that I've had with lots of folks, because I'm dispositionally sort of predisposed towards obsession with evidence. I don't know why. But it's always served me really well, so I haven't seen any reason to try to train against that. But a lot of folks don't seem to have that disposition. They got to train in that direction. And the most important thing about that is that it's better to not know things than to know something, to believe you know something and be mistaken, right? It's just the willingness to exist in an experience of doubt is a fundamental skill if you want to be a happy human being, because the reversal of your beliefs is intrinsically painful. That's the way that the human being, for whatever reason, is wired up. And because of things like, the psychological backlash effect, where the presentation of evidence that challenges a deeply held belief actually causes people to become more entrenched in that belief. If you allow yourself to become entrenched in some sort of counterfactual belief, then you're going to experience a lot of pain in fixing that situation. So wherever possible, it's better to train yourself towards the attitude of mind of saying, I don't know what the evidence for this proposition is. I'm just going to be content with the fact that I don't know. And when I get more evidence, then I can reevaluate this situation. And it can feel like a very uncertain place to live because most of the things that you experience, you're not going to have a lot of evidence about, and you kind of just have to throw your hands up and go, I don't know, who knows, we'll see what happens. But in the long run, it actually ends up being really nice because now you're not really responsible for having hard beliefs about big swaths of the world. And if somebody presents you with new information, you can just take it on board, and there's no emotional response to it. It's, oh, yes, excellent. I didn't know that. Let's have a look at the evidence. And that's going to lead to being a happy human being. So getting away from this belief that the truth will somehow always win out, training to have the attitudes of mind that reflect really tight evidentiary standards, actually demanding to know how people know things when they present information to you, understanding sort of what the known bad types of evidence are, knowing your formal and informal fallacies, things like that, and then just being comfortable living in a place of doubt, and accepting that for most things you're not going to know in great detail about them, so you don't need to get emotionally invested in them. That's going to set you up to be able to productively engage with the universe as it is, in a manner that supports your well-being, supports living a happy human life. That's all I got to say about that. I just failed to push the end stream button. Failure.